we don't deserve to be mistreated because we're having negative thoughts. You know what I'm saying? I can't do that. So we have to be able to control our emotions. We have to be able to even when we having those emotions, be able to operate in them in a positive way.
And we have to control our aggressions.
So what happens from here? Because like I said, even now, like right now, like we can't have.
In the gym, so heavy.
Anger. I think I was mad at the world. I was mad at life. I was, mad at life that was taken from me. Yeah, my mom and dad passed 7 months apart. My sister passed in my hands. Zarya sitting there watching me, trying to pump life into her. I'm trying to pump life into her. So it was hard.
Sophie. I'm sorry, Trish.
When I disappeared from the world. I think I disappeared from myself.
And I understand what Trish has went through.
The tension between Ken and LaTricia has been brewing for quite some time, and now it seems to have reached a breaking point. What we saw in this latest moment on Love and Marriage, Huntsville, was not just a casual disagreement. It was a deep, emotional confrontation between two people who have been trying to love each other while carrying a lot of unresolved pain. This wasn't just about attitude, or communication, or who was right or wrong. This was about two individuals trying to hold on to each other while fighting against their own personal battles. And Ken's message to LaTricia couldn't have been clearer. Go to therapy. That moment, though simple in words, carried a lot of weight. Because for Ken, it wasn't about blaming LaTricia. It was about acknowledging that sometimes love alone isn't enough when the pain from the past still shapes how you show up in the present. Ken started off trying to explain how difficult it has been for him to communicate when emotions get high. He made it clear that he's tired of the constant tension, the back and forth that seems to come up every time they try to have a serious talk. He said something powerful. We have to be able to control our emotions. Even when we're having those emotions, we have to be able to operate in them in a positive way. That line right there is the core of what he's trying to say. Because for him, it's not about pretending feelings don't exist. It's about not letting them turn into weapons that hurt the people we care about. As the conversation went on, Ken became more transparent about how exhausting it's been trying to navigate a relationship that constantly feels like an emotional roller coaster. He said, even now, right now, we can't have a conversation without it being a back and forth. That's when you could tell this wasn't just about that one moment. It was years of frustration, of trying to fix something that keeps falling apart because the foundation itself needs healing. Ken pointed out that a lot of the frustration in their relationship doesn't even come from him. He believes much of what they're going through stems from LaTricia's personal trauma. He said something that hit hard. I think a lot of the frustrations in our relationship stem from things that I have nothing to do with. And I think your personal trauma shouldn't be allowed to determine the way you treat other people. That was a raw truth, because many times in relationships, people carry old wounds, pain from childhood, loss, or past relationships. And without realizing it, they project that pain onto their partners. It's not out of malice, it's out of unhealed trauma. And Ken is tired of being the emotional punching bag for something he didn't cause. Then came one of the most emotional moments. When Ken was asked what drove him to be in the gym so much, his answer wasn't about fitness. It was about survival. He said, anger. I think I was mad at the world. I was mad at life. And then he opened up about the heartbreaking loss he experienced. Both his parents passed away within 7 months of each other. Then his sister died right in his hands as he tried to save her life. Just imagine that kind of pain. Imagine the trauma of watching someone you love take their last breath while you're trying to revive them. That kind of loss changes a person. It breaks something deep inside you. And Ken admitted that when all that happened, he disappeared, not just from the world, but from himself. He said, when I disappeared from the world. I think I disappeared from myself. That's a level of honesty that not everyone can reach, because sometimes when you go through that much pain, you stop recognizing who you are. You function, but you're not truly living. So when you put that in context, you can see that Ken isn't just speaking as a man frustrated with his partner. He's speaking as someone who knows what it's like to lose everything and still be trying to hold on. He's trying to be patient. He even said he understands what LaTricia has gone through in her past, but patience, as he admitted, has its limits. If she doesn't get the help and the proper therapy that she needs, it's probably not going to work for us. That line right there is where love meets reality. Because no matter how much love exists between two people, if one person refuses to heal, the relationship eventually crumbles. Therapy isn't a punishment, it's a lifeline. And Ken is basically saying, I love you, but I can't keep doing this alone. He's been trying, for 3 years, to be patient and understanding. But there comes a point where you have to draw a line for your own peace of mind. When he said, I can't keep getting beat over the head for something I didn't do, that was a cry for fairness, for balance, for emotional safety. Because no one can keep giving love and support while constantly being blamed or punished for someone else's past pain. Then came the question of what happens next. What steps do they need to take to move forward? Ken didn't hesitate. He said change has to happen, and it has to start with therapy. He wasn't just suggesting it. He was making it clear that without that step, there is no future for them. And honestly, that's not harsh. That's mature. Because he's not saying he doesn't love her. He's saying he loves her enough to want her to heal. But he also loves himself enough to not stay stuck in a cycle of hurt. The whole conversation shows how much both of them are struggling. Ken with his own grief and frustration, and LaTricia with her trauma and emotional triggers. But what stands out is how much self-awareness Ken has developed. He knows that unhealed pain doesn't just disappear. It shows up in every argument, every misunderstanding, every emotional outburst. It's because he's already spent years hoping things would get better without change. And that's the truth in many relationships. People hope things will fix themselves, but time alone doesn't heal trauma. It takes work, it takes therapy, it takes facing uncomfortable truths about yourself. You can hear the sadness in Ken's tone. He doesn't want to give up on what they have, but he also can't keep living like this. You can tell he's emotionally drained. He's been trying to communicate calmly, to be patient, to offer understanding, but he's running on empty. Because when one person refuses to do the inner work, the other ends up carrying both their weights. It's important to note how he balances his emotions in this conversation. Even when he's expressing frustration, he's doing it from a place of care. He's not attacking her. He's pleading for change. That shows emotional maturity. Because for a lot of men, especially those who've been through pain, it's not easy to open up like that. Many shut down or lash out. But Ken chose to speak his truth calmly and with intention. Now let's look at LaTricia's side for a moment. She's clearly been through her own struggles, and from what we've seen, she carries pain that goes deeper than what's been discussed. But that's exactly why therapy is so important, because when pain goes unaddressed, it becomes the filter through which you see the world. Everything feels like an attack. Every disagreement feels personal, and every attempt at communication turns into a battlefield. Ken knows that, which is why he keeps emphasizing the need for therapy. It's not about assigning blame. It's about breaking that cycle. He's saying, I understand your pain, but I can't be your punching bag. I want to help you, but you have to want to help yourself too. The most heartbreaking part of this conversation is that you can see both love and exhaustion in Ken's words. He's still hopeful enough to say, what steps do we need to take? But he's also realistic enough to know that without change, hope will fade. Relationships can't thrive when they're built on unhealed wounds. It's like trying to build a house on cracked ground. It might look fine for a while, but eventually the cracks will show. Ken doesn't want to keep patching over problems. He wants real healing. And the truth is, Therapy isn't just about fixing what's broken. It's about understanding yourself. It's about learning why you react the way you do, why certain things trigger you, and how to communicate your emotions without turning them into weapons. That's what Ken wants for both of them. The scene also sheds light on how men deal with emotional pain. When Ken said he turned to the gym out of anger, it showed that his outlet for pain wasn't always healthy. It was just the only one he knew. Physical strength became a mask for emotional weakness. But even in that, there was growth. Because instead of lashing out at the world, he chose to channel that anger into something productive. Still, that doesn't replace emotional healing. When someone has lost both parents and a sibling within months, it leaves scars that run deep. So when he says he disappeared from himself, it's because grief can make you lose your sense of identity. You stop feeling joy. You start existing just to survive. And it takes time and therapy to reconnect with who you are beyond the pain. That's why his plea to LaTricia hit so hard. He knows what it feels like to live in emotional darkness. He doesn't want her to stay there. But he also can't walk through her healing for her. There's also something powerful about how he doesn't shy away from accountability. He's not saying he's perfect or blameless. He's saying he's trying. But it's hard to keep trying when the other person won't meet you halfway. He's tired of feeling like every argument becomes a punishment, tired of walking on eggshells, tired of being the target of displaced anger. And when he says it's been 3 years, that gives perspective. 3 years of the same arguments, 3 years of emotional ups and downs, 3 years of love mixed with pain. That's a long time to fight the same battles. By the end of the conversation, it's clear that Ken still has love for LaTricia, but it's also clear that love alone won't save them this time. Therapy is the only way forward, and he's not just suggesting it casually. He's setting it as a boundary, because without that step, he knows nothing will change. What we're witnessing here is a moment of truth. Ken is standing in his truth, expressing his needs clearly and setting boundaries rooted in self-respect. He's not walking away yet, but he's drawing a line that says, I will no longer accept being hurt because of someone else's unhealed pain. That's what makes this scene so powerful. It's not about drama, it's about real human emotion. It's about two people realizing that love without healing leads to destruction. In many ways, Ken's words are a message not just to LaTricia, but to anyone who's been through emotional turmoil. Healing isn't optional. You can't outrun pain. You can only face it. And therapy isn't a weakness. It's strength. It's saying, I want better for myself and for the people I love. So when Ken says, if there's no action, it's not going to change, he's reminding us all that change doesn't come from talking. It comes from doing. It comes from taking that first step toward healing, no matter how uncomfortable it feels. At the end of the day, this isn't just a scene about relationship problems. It's about accountability, emotional maturity, and the power of self-awareness. Ken's message might sound simple: go to therapy. But behind it is a lifetime of lessons about pain, patience, and personal growth. And as viewers, we can all take something from this moment. Because whether it's Ken or LaTricia, we've all been in that place where love meets pain, where understanding meets frustration, and where the only way to move forward is to heal what's been broken inside. Ken's words weren't cruel. They were compassionate. He's not trying to abandon her. He's trying to save what they have. But even he knows that saving a relationship requires two people willing to do the work. And if one refuses, no amount of love can fill that gap. This was a raw, emotional, and powerful moment that reminded everyone watching that real healing takes honesty, courage, and humility. It's not easy, but it's the only way to truly grow, both as individuals and as partners. Sometimes, love demands that we take accountability for our own healing. And that's exactly what Ken is asking LaTricia to do. Not just for him, but for herself. Because until that happens, the cycle will never end. And that's the painful, beautiful truth that played out before everyone's eyes.